Let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Send News, the Inside Gaming podcast where we talk all about video game news. My name is Brian. Here's the rest of the gang.
It's me, Conor, and here's the rest of the gang.
Didn't expect you to say that. I'm Alanah, and there's just one left.
Of course, it's me. I'm here. Finally. I think I only missed 2 episodes, but I'm here now. And I know you guys haven't really done this before. So if you guys want to just step it up, I made a promise that this would be our best episode ever because I'm here. So if you guys could just really make me look good.
And you
introduced yourself as me. Who are
they don't need to know because they already know. They know it's
Got it. Jesus,
yeah.
Yes.
No, it's Evan.
That was a long wind up, Evan. All right.
Very worth it though.
I'm here.
Guys, we've had a newsy week. A lot of stuff. I thought the most interesting thing was Amazon's Crucible, the free-to-play multiplayer hero shooter. It's not the first game out of Amazon's gaming studios, but it's one of the most visible. It's been a complete disaster. They had to note today that they were taking it back into beta, which really doesn't happen, but I guess they're just trying to save it from being a complete disaster because the player base dwindled. What do you guys think about this? This seems like another example of I don't know, after Google Stadia, just the big tech guys can't get gaming right.
Here's the thing. I played it. We did a gameplay for Funhouse. The issue with this game is not that it's broken. From what we played, which I think was a bit over an hour, of realizing it was a MOBA, actually, and being like, oh, fuck, we didn't realize we were playing a MOBA. Oh, no, we aren't prepared for this at all. It's not that the game's broken. It functions just fine. As we were playing 3 matches, we got better and better every time. Again, took a while to figure out that it is, in fact, a MOBA and not a hero shooter. The issue is that they didn't advertise it. I didn't see this game advertised anywhere at all, ever. So, yeah, no one's playing it because no one's heard of it. And
That's
you being Amazon isn't good enough.
Yeah, I didn't know it was coming out even. And I feel like I pay attention. I can't believe they unreleased the game. Has that happened before? I mean, I guess maybe Anthem could have benefited, but
I'm sure it has, but this seems very for a game of this size. I can't think of another example.
I mean, what was that Final Fantasy? Was it
14? Yeah, but 14. I mean, they released it, and that's probably the closest, and it was such a disaster. They said, we're going to pull it down, remake it, and I think a year later, or whatever, a year or two, they came back, and they pulled it off. It was much better, so, but that's kind of the exception more than the rule.
Right. It just seems so strange to me to own Twitch and not fully advertise the game.
On Twitch.
Yeah.
You're right. And I keep wondering how different those departments are and if that's the change going forward. Them unreleasing it is, to be fair, I feel like this week is the most I've heard anyone talk about this game. So people notice that.
Yeah,
certainly.
But taking it, I don't know if maybe other people had a bunch of bugs when playing it, but even when I look at this Kotaku article that I believe we sourced on the Daily, it says the post-release beta comes on the heels of a rocky launch, but even that doesn't seem to list bugs as the issue. It lists just an abysmal player base. It does say that from a technical standpoint, it seems that Crucible's biggest problem is with matchmaking. Players are having to wait a long time to find matches, and I think we sort of did when we played, but even that isn't necessarily a technical issue. It's that there's no one fucking playing it.
But it did get bad reviews on Metacritic. I think it has a 6.
Did it?
It has a 56. So
it's not like I thought it was good. It's just that I didn't think it was broken.
I got you. Yeah.
That's not.
The summary that seemed to bubble up was that it's not bad, but it's just there's so many more games in this space that you can play.
Yeah, I can't think of a first person MOBA that's done well in that way. That's MOBA that hard with creeps and towers and everything like that. Every single one of them is kind of crash and burn.
So it's a MOBA, not a hero shooter, because
So I think they call it a hero shooter, but yeah, it's a MOBA. The way that it plays in terms of lanes and capturing points, it is a fucking MOBA. Okay. And I think maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
is they didn't advertise it as a MOBA, so
Right.
you could watch it in real time. I think we decided for Funhouse we're only going to release that video on RT because it is us being frustrated at figuring out that something is in fact a MOBA and then
You
just
got
getting
the genre
destroyed.
wrong.
Because we were like, we thought it was a hero shooter as well, I think, and we were like, okay, cool, I'll play a hero shooter. They're generally pretty fun. Like if it's an Overwatch type, we'll get into it. But then it's a fucking MOBA, and we're like,
that seems like a very big company move to make to me, which is we're going to vastly not undersell, I guess misrepresent the identity of this game in hopes that people who trip into it looking for something else are okay with it. I mean, it's like what Warner Brothers did with Suicide Squad, where they were like, we're just going to make this, we shot it as like this dark movie, and then they were like, well, actually people like that fun trailer, so we're going to make it kind of just like that. And it's like totally goes against tonally and story-wise and character. I don't know. I didn't see Suicide Squad. I don't fucking care about Suicide Squad.
Just virtually no game genre that is worse to do a bait and switch with than a MOBA. Because MOBAs exist in this weird space where basically the established ones seem to be the only ones that can exist, which is kind of a bummer. There's very much a Dota League monopoly. Smite made some waves, but still even then, it's like new MOBAs just can't really compete. But it's also, to get into a MOBA, you have to put in, like, I've put like 500 hours into Dota and I'm still bad. So it's a really big investment. So you can't bait and switch someone into getting into a MOBA because they're going to be like, oh, I recognize what this is. Oh, this is going to take me 100 hours to get good at.
Yeah, like you said, even if you do know what you're getting into, there's so much to learn in those style of games, and especially new games have a rocky launch. Like even when League of Legends first launched, people loved it, but it was kind of a mess too, like in terms of balance and them trying to figure out everything. And those are games that they develop over time, right? And you don't have that kind of runway. It's almost like they developed this game at the same time as Paragon, or I guess it would have to be a little bit after, and then just like, oh, like what do we do? Because Paragon just totally sank, and then also there's two other games that I can't even think of the name.
Battleborn.
It reminds me a little bit of the. It reminds me a little bit of the post World of Warcraft gold rush in MMOs. Just we're gonna make the WoW killer, and no one ever did, and it was almost
Crucible's
impossible.
way too late.
And even on the
way
other side,
too late for MOBAs. Yeah.
How long do you think they've been developing it? Because why is it always like for the past however many years, it's always been like, we're gonna move off the hero shooter vibe and not like the field is littered with bodies that have run up against the ramparts and been pushed back down and had oil poured on them and shot through with arrows, and it's just like, what? You have so many resources, Amazon. You could have gone in so many directions.
Guess is that what happened here, this sort of happened to me like a little bit while I was working at IGN, is that a particular executive was like, League of Legends, huh? Look at Riot. Have you seen
right.
Fucking make that, and we're Amazon. It'll be fine. Who are you kidding? And then it's not. Because again, I don't feel like the development team that worked on this did a bad job. Like I didn't want to play it, but it's not like I thought it was a bad game in the traditional sense of bad video game. It's not like they didn't try. It's quite pretty. There are a lot of
effort put into it.
It's very pretty, and there were a lot of throughout time playing, I definitely found a character that I really liked, that I found really fun, with some cool and interesting abilities. Like the effort is certainly there, and I'm not going to discredit that development team. It's the idea that I think is massively lacking, and that does feel like it was probably the direction of someone who doesn't necessarily understand. So like with IGN, that happened with a certain executive while I was on the fix. Evan, I don't know if you were part of this too, being like, we need you to cover Overwatch League in the daily fix. And I was like, I think that's a bad idea, because we're a day late and publish at like 4 p.m. And everyone who cares about the Overwatch League will have already gotten the Overwatch League from the Overwatch League. Right. So I think that it makes absolutely no sense for us to do this. And he was like, but the Overwatch League is big, so we're going to cover it in the daily fix. We were like, okay. And then did it for about 2 weeks and nobody cared.
That's just terribly misguided, just even in terms of esports, because I think when Overwatch League was becoming a thing, I was still working at Yahoo for specifically just esports content. And we were like, we don't know if this thing is going to do numbers at all. And Blizzard kind of just bought their way into the space with like the stadiums and the teams and the franchising and all that stuff. Like, no, I think some of us were even still surprised that it even worked as well as it did. And even in esports, it's like maybe a 4th tier esport, 3rd tier esport compared to League of Legends and Dota and CSGO. So yeah, and talk about, Connor, you're talking about the field is littered with bodies. There's only like 2 hero shooters, even if it was less of a MOBA and more of a hero shooter. You've just got Overwatch and I guess kind of now Valorant and Apex Legends, I guess, right? Like
Team Fortress still counts.
Sort of, yeah, but yeah,
Like
I wonder,
TF2.
yeah, how many people are playing that? Like how many people are streaming that on Twitch, right?
True.
It's kind of like the gamer consciousness. We kind of look at Twitch sometimes, the front page, and you kind of see what games people are playing. But yeah, to go all in on esports content, especially at a place like IGN. Like I think I did an 8 series episode on GameSpot just for League of Legends. And GameSpot is a huge platform, and it's just like that esports content just doesn't generally mix with like traditional games content for some reason.
No,
I think
and it's something that I think, like, you know, talking to journalists about it, it's something that they want to figure out how to cover better, and that there is opportunity for that for sure. But just reporting what happened in the OWL and the fix didn't make any sense, and was a parallel to this in that it was an exec seeing the big thing and thinking that, well, if we talk about the big thing, success.
Right, yeah.
But those things are
constantly-
so specialized that covering it from 2,000 feet up doesn't work for people who are really into that shit.
Especially not in just a news reporting the stats.
No,
kind of way.
Right,
It just
no,
didn't make any sense.
it exists almost in parallel to gaming a lot, because the people I do know that are into esports are very into it. Myself not being into it, I don't seek those things out, and those stories don't really interest me. Not to say that they're not interesting, but you can't really force that kind of thing. And also Overwatch League and and the esports things, they have a really good handle on spreading their own content. Like,
right.
Friends of mine are on a few friends of mine are on the social team who I worked with at Machinima, and like they do a great job. They don't need
so
an
good.
outlet
They're so efficient.
covering them. Yeah, they're really terrific, because it's not just about games. It's not just about the stadiums and the arenas and the matchups. So much of the equation is content creation, and they understand that.
And they have their own like specific message boards and whatever to go to like get into this on a granular level that you will never be able to get into on like a larger media outlet. Like it's
press have to like figure out different ways to cover it. But to bring it back to Crucible, that's what I feel like probably happened, is that some exec was like, do that. And they were like, okay.
You're right.
But I still don't know why they didn't market it. I didn't see this game advertised even once.
No, I didn't either. Nope.
Do you think they were, I don't know, waiting till it was out of beta? Or was it out?
But it did. No, it came out of
was
beta.
out.
Yeah, it came out. And like when Apex Legends came out, I feel like Apex did it kind of the right way. They paid Ninja, they paid a bunch of big streamers to play it for a few days, and it got on the radar, and people were like, holy shit, 50 million people played this or whatever in the first day. Like it at least made a splash like they wanted it to. Yeah, this didn't do any of that.
Is Fortnite out yet? Isn't Fortnite still in beta?
I don't think Fortnite's, is it?
Yeah. I mean, we're like
It's
version
out?
season 2 or whatever. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a done thing. I think
they
For
never
a really
released the
long
original
time,
one.
it was
Yeah.
in beta.
right.
Yeah, it was just called beta, maybe up until chapter 2, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess the base game is just never going to come out, right?
I think it.
Something Tonight. It's supposed to come out in 2018.
Fortnite's still in beta.
I think
In
they're still working on
2019,
that.
this is the
Save
last
the world
last
or
reason
whatever.
I
Wait,
can find this.
Fortnite
It was
like
still
the
in beta.
Battle Royale mode is still in
Oh.
beta?
Yeah, I don't.
No.
Again, I don't know if it actually is, but
It's-
it was for a really long time.
It said there was going to be an official release at some point, and then they just kind of realized they're like,
Who
beta
cares?
for us just means constantly adding content, which is just games as a service. So they maybe just scrubbed the website a little bit. I wonder if Crucible, if at any point they were like, this is going to be our esports machine. Like,
Yes.
is that
Oh,
why they went
yeah.
MOBA? Because like Apex, which you just brought up, I think, Brian, was like, I mean, it was all about the game. I mean, that's how it felt to me as a player and someone who loved Respawn and Titanfall. It felt good to play. Like there was no lofty goal that I was concerned about as a player with esports, but I wonder if that was part of the marketing plan for Crucible, and then people didn't take to it, and I don't know.
Such a hard gamut to there's like basically 3 pillars of what makes a good esport in my opinion, and I think it's like, first off, you have to have a good game that has like a fun shallow end and a really deep end, so people can learn the game and get into it really fast, but then also people who spend tens and thousands of hours playing it are still finding new things later on. Secondly, it has to be fun to watch, right? And that's like a thing that Overwatch battled. for a while. And then thirdly, you have to find a way to sustain that development cycle of updates and patches. So whether that's like microtransactions or skins and stuff like that, like you need all of those three things to kind of work in tandem. And it's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle, you know, like these games that have done it have been around for so long and have iterated so many times. So whenever a new game comes out with like that mantra of trying to become an esport, usually is just setting itself up to fail because there just needs to be so much there.
It's
sorry
so
to jump back to
competitive
this.
now too.
I googled it.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's hear it.
This is an article from The Verge 2 days ago, so I guess it wasn't beta. It's that Fortnite is still in early access. Article from 2 days ago. Fortnite finally leaves early access as Epic slows down Save the World development. So it sounds like at some point very soon it is finally going to be officially launching.
Oh my god.
I know. It's nuts.
Is that just
we
for
have
Save
really
the
high
World,
hopes
you
for
said?
Fortnite. We think it's really
Yeah,
going to do
it's
pretty
finally
well once we
coming out.
release it.
I've heard a
Wild.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget that Fortnite was supposed to be a Minecraft clone. Like, remember that first
Yes,
trailer?
what Save the World actually
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Nuts.
let's move on to the Crysis remake. We did a video about this, but it was supposed that we were supposed to get the official trailer for it this week and an announcement of when the game was going to release. And it leaked a few days early, and we saw the official trailer, and it looked horrible, or it did not look like a Crysis game, which is meaning to say a very graphically impressive game. There was a backlash to it. The Crysis team obviously saw that and then posted on Twitter, yeah, we're going to delay it a few weeks. We need to polish some things. But geez, this was, I don't know if this was just a bad port or just hastily done, but I looked at the leaked trailer. It did look not impressive in the slightest.
I really enjoyed Patrick's joke title for that episode of The Daily, which was Crysis Can't Run Crysis.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. It's so sad to see just like this pinnacle of gaming, of PC gaming, like technical prowess and elitism just be reduced to like a low resolution pile of rubble.
Oh,
I don't think it looks that bad. And that yeah, it's bad when compared to Crysis. It's so weird that this is how this trailer turned out. But I feel like there are other games that I've played this year that look the same as this. So it's not like I think it's the worst looking game ever. But yes, when compared to Crysis, which is the whole point, how? How is this what you made?
yeah. Did y'all not watch this trailer before you put it out? How did this not trip alarm bells at the studio? I don't know. And they, in the announcement, they made all this, it's going to have improved. It's going to be even better. It's going to, have this and that, and the lighting's going to be better and the particle effects. And then you see the trailer. It doesn't even really look as good as the original Crysis.
Has anyone made a side-by-side yet?
Oh, I'm sure someone
I haven't
will.
seen it. Why is the trailer still up? I feel like those things are usually
I know.
I
That
know.
it didn't get DMCA'd is crazy.
I appreciate that they didn't, but yeah.
It's
Maybe
just
they're
like,
confident that they can fix it. I don't
It
know.
looks like Just Cause with a texture pack on it.
I can't see any
shader.
side-by-side trailers.
My question is, do you think that this is an issue, and this this may very well be the case, that is it an issue of the legacy of Crysis, like just completely demolishing any Crysis thing after? Because even Crysis 2 and 3 weren't really held to that same standard that first Crysis game was. It just had such a run of being like, can your PC run Crysis?
Yes, I think so. It's a meme just as much as it is a game at this point, but they should have known that. And that goes into the whole package when you're going to remake Crysis. And so I just feel like all of this was eminently foreseeable. And if you're not going to come heavy with your remake, then just don't do it. I know nothing about game development. I don't know how they fix this in a couple of weeks. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't
It's
seem
like
possible.
they forgot their own brand. No, this isn't a matter of shaders. This is
right.
a bit more complicated than that. But it could be a bad port, and that I don't know how porting works exactly. But maybe if it's something that they attempt differently or something, I have no idea. Then it turns out better. I don't know.
I don't know. This is actually, it's funny that this comes at the time it does, because I was always aware of Crysis as the console breaking super game. As I wasn't a PC gamer, and it kind of existed on another plane. So it was almost just this like vague, shapeless software that existed off on the horizon. Yeah. And it wasn't until actually just 2 weeks ago that I was like, oh yeah, that game was thrown around as a meme all the time. What did it actually look like? And I watched like a cinematic trailer from one of the Crises, and I was like, this looks pretty good. And now to see this so close to my first actual glimpse of Crysis, it really does. This does really pale. And I know the other one's a cinematic trailer, but this one has cinematic aspects too, which also don't look good.
Yeah, and it people are blaming Saber Interactive because they're helping the Switch. They're co-developing the Switch version. They also did the Switch port of Witcher 3, which it was cool, I guess, that they got Witcher 3 on the Switch, but it does not look great. So I don't, there's just a lot of kind of internet dunking going on right now, and that's certainly why they came out and were like, look, all right, that's fine. We want to make you happy. We're going to pull it back. I think it's going to take longer than the few weeks that they said it would.
It seems like such a weird delay, but like maybe it's a budget thing where they can't budget for any more than a couple of weeks. But I don't know that this would have sold that well anyway. So
yeah. I don't know. If I were an employee there, I would feel like I would see that statement and be like, weeks? What?
Yeah.
Why didn't they talk to anybody?
Really? Weeks? That's it?
Yeah.
And then you submit your resignation. Yeah.
You update your LinkedIn. All right, let's move on to NBA 2K21, that game we're all very excited about. It did make some news, though, when it came out that it is going to be $10 more expensive on the Xbox Series X and PS5. So it's going to retail for $70 instead of the kind of standard $60. But the larger point, of course, is, does this mean that next gen games are going to cost $70? Are they jacking up the price? For some games I can see that. For other games, I absolutely cannot. But it is interesting if that's going to be the new bar, $70 in the next generation.
I think this is just a marketing tactic. It doesn't make any logical sense that. So, like, I just had a conversation with someone about this. Value when it comes to virtually the price of anything, and this is like, I studied marketing as part of my journalism degree, because like half of journalism in this kind of field is cutting through marketing, right? So value is $60 is basically an arbitrary number. It doesn't mean anything. There can be a game that takes 8 years to make and a game that takes 3 years to make, and you can sell them for the same price. The cost doesn't add up. $60 being what we pay for a video game is not based on any math. It's just the number that they chose and that people tend to want to buy games at. In Australia, it was $100 for the most part. $70, if I'm going on, the marketing subject that I took, is just so that people recognize when they see that box, that version is better and I should buy that one. It doesn't mean that
the old fallacy. If it costs more, it must be better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think it actually means anything, or it costs them an extra $10 per unit to make. No, it is literally just marketing manipulation tactic of, that one's $10 more. It's the better version. We should
Aren't
buy
people
that.
going to be more upset when the game, like, because sports games tend to be iterative in that way, and if they don't nail the feature set, I just feel like those games are usually criticized also for kind of being samey, and people just buy into them because they want the new roster updates and stuff. I don't know if that's still a thing. It's been a while since I played a sports game.
I think so.
But aren't people just going to be more upset when they paid $70 for a game that isn't as good as the one they liked from like 3 years ago or 2 years ago?
Hey, as long as they buy it, doesn't matter if they're upset.
Yeah.
We don't care. Buy the game.
Right. It does seem like we were talking about this a little bit off air, but it does seem like in many ways like a totally separate audience, and because it is in a lot of ways. Yeah. But it's like the just how blatant the Ultimate Team stuff in FIFA is with like you're paying for a better team. It's like in another game, I mean, my assumption is that there would be a lot more backlash. Would it amount to anything? I don't know, but I mean,
You're saying
I would say
sports
that's
games fans have shown a willingness to pony up and
yeah.
pay
So,
in
I mean,
order-
like,
Well,
I feel
Ultimate
like
Team specifically is a super interesting one because I think it's actually the way that Ultimate Team came out that gives it the free pass. In that it was originally a free, like, standalone thing that accompanied FIFA. And then they ended up putting it into the game itself. But it took a really long time. So because it wasn't just suddenly there's microtransactions in your game and it was done a lot more slowly than that, I think people were okay with Ultimate Team. But Ultimate Team is also a really interesting one in that we know how much money it makes. FIFA itself is basically procedurally generated. Every match is basically procedurally generated. So it's not like you're making, sure, you could still play 100 hours, but it's not 100 scripted hours. FIFA is not as time-consuming in that regard to develop as a Naughty Dog game. Like, I feel like it would make perfect sense, and they would still recoup all of their costs if FIFA were free and Ultimate Team still existed. But no one's asking them to do that because it hasn't been that way.
Right,
They're just
why
saying,
not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Who cares?
kind of the
They make so much goddamn money.
you boil the frog from cold. You don't drop it in the pot.
This does feel like a little bit of a trial balloon to me of just, well, will you buy this? Will this affect sales at all? What if we jacked it up, by $10? How will this, and we'll do some research on it, see how it does. And if people pay for it, then other people will take notice. I don't know.
I would be so bummed if I was, because you've already got all these players on the hook for $60 a year. Like they know that they're kind of indebted to this, and I would feel trapped because that's the game I would want to play. Same thing with like a fighting game or something too. It's just like I'm gonna always buy the newest version because I want to have all the updates and everything. So I'd be really pissed if I had to pay an extra $10 than normal, and there isn't really a good justification for it. Which I mean that's yet to be proven, right? If they prove it and it works, okay, and those players are happy, it's fine. But then the idea of the rest of the industry looking to this to maybe boost up all of the costs of gaming in general, like I get it. Maybe that's been a long time coming, and I'm down to like support developers and stuff, but. Yeah, I think if they do this wrong, it could be bad for everyone, right? That chance to increase games overall, the cost of games overall, might slip through the cracks here if they really just like do this in bad faith and don't present a product worthy of that money.
Especially these games, like y'all said, that are so monetized, that are so, there's so many more things you have to buy that to jack this one up to $70 feels like, y'all had to start with this one. I don't know.
Yeah, put them on a subscription or something. Like I think people would be down for that. Like they're just gonna spend that money anyway if they don't have to think about it, and they're getting constant updates and things to a game as a service all the time. I don't know. That whole model seems like it needs a change. The way those games are made seems like it needs a change. It's like the whole thing needs to be restructured, I feel.
I think they're not changing the model, and they're willing to try it with this game because, like you said, Brian, sports games have an install base. People are gonna buy it ananyway. So right. I think this is like a safe one to do it with. And price of games have been the same for a really, really, really long time. And there've been execs for the longest time saying, well, games have become more expensive to make. We have to find a way to get those costs back. But I also read a feature for IGN a while back where I interviewed, I think it was like 60 developers in total, from all different walks of life, AAA and indie. And the response that I got was largely like, no, that's not necessarily true. Like, in that, yes, games are, in some cases, taking a longer amount of time to make and can sometimes cost more. It completely depends on the project. But it's also, they tend to sell a lot more and make a lot more money back, and also tend to have microtransactions, which make absurd amounts of money.
They've figured out
it's
ways.
Like very, I don't know that, like, this exact rhetoric of, well, games have gotten more expensive to make, but the price is exactly the same is fair.
Well, also, they're not disclosing digital sales, right? Like, that's a huge gray box. We don't know how that's impacted the industry over the years, and they're going to keep that box locked up pretty tight as much as they can, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. They're right in the strict sense of games have not gone up that much, because I'll pull out some history. I remember buying Double Dragon for the NES, and this was late 80s, $50. So it hasn't gone up that. So it's gone up $10 since then. That's not a lot. But Double Dragon didn't have microtransactions. It didn't have all this other things. Like, they were making their $50 and then that was it. We kind of shook hands after I bought it at KB Toys and we went our separate ways. But yeah, like you said, Alanah, they have so many more ways to monetize it. And yeah, the developers will argue, well, we need to do that because the costs have gotten so much higher, and they have, but I don't know. It is interesting to see that price point weirdly. And also with technology too, prices don't tend to go up. They kind of go the other way a lot of the times.
Yeah, because people get more efficient.
Yeah.
But I think game design is such a creative mess that efficiencies aren't necessarily possible, especially because everyone's using a different engine.
Yep.
So and to your point about Double Dragon, the other side of that is that they didn't have to patch Double Dragon. They give you that game and then they never touch it again either.
No,
so
it had to be done.
Consistently,
it had to be finished.
Consistently updating things. So it's very complicated, but my main point is always going to be, it just ain't that fucking simple. There is no answer to exactly how much games should cost.
Yes.
The only simple part of it is that someone decided that the perception of value to customers is, I will spend $60 on this thing, and $70 might be the better version. So thus I will spend $70 because therefore it is more valuable.
If they did go with $70, let's just say hypothetically they just boom, flip the switch, we go to the next console generations, everything's $70. How do you think that would be received? Because I feel like there's the enthusiast market, which I feel like I fall into, which I'll constantly put aside inconveniences to play certain things at certain times on certain platforms. I mean, it's the same for me with willing to have a 200 gig install for one game and take up that much hard drive space. I'm willing to put aside a lot of convenience to experience things the way I think I should. But there's also a huge market that I'm aside from me, and I'm wondering how that would be. Would it change the way people play games? Would people wait more? Would people want shorter experience? I don't know. Or longer.
I think it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
My head says I don't think there'd be any influence at all. We're obviously in a position of privilege where we can afford to buy multiple video games. And if they all go up to $70, will keep buying them. And I think that they know that there is a large market of people who feel that way. But then you have to account for the amount of people out there who don't have the same amount of disposable income that they can spend on multiple video games per year, who maybe do have to budget differently if some is $70 versus $60. Which is a very real reality for a lot of people. So it's, I feel very hard to guess, but my gut says it would make no difference at all, and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
and
it's always been it's always been an expensive hobby, and it is difficult because I can think of so many games where I got way more than my $60 worth, where I got just a ton of gameplay out of it. But I can think of a lot of games where I didn't get $60 worth. And this is also just day one prices too. I think the inclination to have sales and cut the price, is, so we're just talking about launch day prices. I want to play Last of Us 2. I'm probably going to wait a few months because I know they're going to cut it and discount it a little bit.
I just got Doom Eternal yesterday, and I had the same reasoning back in March.
And you get a better version of it because it's been patched.
True.
Yeah.
True. And it's also that value is so subjective in general. Whenever someone asks me, is this game worth $60? I'm like, well, I don't know your personal taste. I don't know your income. I really don't feel like I can answer that. And that was a thing that's come up my whole career in any kind of game reviews is well, why don't you just say if it's worth the cost? I can't because I don't know you and what you think $60 amounts to. I'm a person who'll spend $1,000 on a fucking Batman statue, but if a t-shirt is more than $10, I'm like...
Fuck that.
Someone would be like, is this dress worth $200? And I would be like, obviously not ever, no. But other people will spend $1,000 on a dress. And I would be like, oh my God. But they're like, look at your stupid fucking Batman statue. Value is so subjective.
And if you're the kind of person who, and if you only buy 1 or 2 games a year, that's a different value proposition.
Yeah.
I remember when my friend asked me on day one, if he should buy No Man's Sky full price. And all I had done was taken off and flown off planet through the stars, which is one of the coolest thing I've ever seen in a game. I stand by that to this day, even in vanilla No Man's Sky. And I immediately was like, yes. And then a few months ago, he was like, should I buy Death Stranding for $60? I was like, I don't want to No Man's Sky you. I was like, I really liked it, but we've been through this before.
Yeah, value is mad subjective is the conclusion, and I don't know. I feel like again, execs have been wanting to do this for a while because they want more money, but
$60 is not
They
keeping
kinda
Bobby
can.
Kotick from taking home millions and millions in bonuses. It's like, there's things to take a
no.
different
That is
size of
a-
the pie.
That's a wealth distribution argument, which is very
He's-
different.
he's
Well, it'll
getting
trickle
his,
down.
Yeah,
his
totally.
damn
It always does.
microtransaction money across the board. Old Bobby Kotick, he's doing just fine.
Oh, doing all right.
All right,
It's
let's
like-
move on and talk about Nintendo and the Switch and Joy-Cons, specifically Joy-Con drift. It's been an issue. I've definitely seen it with multiple pairs of Joy-Cons. I blame that for having kids, though. They're fucking
Oh,
hell
yeah.
on Joy-Cons. But
No children.
How'd you
got
get
Joy-Con
spaghetti in
drift
here?
oh, you
recently.
did? Oh, you got it with no kids. Okay. all right.
I also
Yes, no
got
children.
it. Yeah, I have
Lawrence
I have a
fixed
neighbor.
my controller for me. He was like the first person that I'd seen in lockdown is because I tweeted about Joy-Con drift, and Lawrence immediately was like, "Would you like me to fix it?" And I was
Yes,
like,
I would.
God bless you, Lawrence. God bless you. And he like came to me on his motorbike, and we did like a exchange with our masks, and then he gave it
Oh,
back.
that's
That's
awesome.
so funny.
It was
I
very
can
nice.
totally see that happening, too.
He's
Oh,
very
yeah.
enthusiastic about fixing Joy-Con, I think.
He really likes it. He was like,
Yeah.
it was that Alanah, you were there, right? The To Catch a Predator night he hosted.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, one,
doing it
do you
that
want me
night,
to
I
fix?
think.
He's what?
I think he was doing it that night.
He was doing it
You-
for me. And
Yeah.
he's,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, do you want your Joy-Con fixed? And two, do you like seeing pedos get busted? I was like,
We all
he's
have
like,
our
these are
areas.
related. I was like, yes.
Yeah,
and he's
but-
like, cool, come over on this night. I'll fix your Joy-Con.
I think I got it from playing too much Animal Crossing. However, it seems like a lot of people have it out of the box. Connor, did yours have any like causality, or did it just kind of show up?
So I hardly play my Switch. I'm just not a Switch person, and also this was I had the first pair of Joy-Cons I had, the left one just straight up died, like not after a ton of use, but I'd been using it to play. It was before I got a Pro controller, so I was like, all right, that's kind of weird, and I got it used. So then I bought the second set of Joy-Cons, and even with pretty light use, it just started drifting just by itself. I mean, I guess the most intensive playthrough was probably Dead Cells on it, which is a lot of quick twitch movement, and maybe that did something, but also like it was fine for the most part. And I had just been playing Stardew, which is mostly D-pad for me.
Let me
And so-
hold on. Let me interject real quick about the point of why we're bringing it up. Nintendo
yeah.
apologized for the Joy-Con
Well,
drift.
Prior to now, they hadn't even really referenced it.
Yeah, well, they gave a statement to Kotaku saying they were aware of it and kind of directed people to the support site, but they were asked about it in an investor Q&A. President Shintaro Furukawa said, regarding the Joy-Con, we apologize for any trouble caused to our customers. And then he basically said, we can't say anything more because there's a class action suit.
Right. And
But,
they were
yeah.
fixing them too, right? But just for money before. Right?
After the class action suit got filed, they stopped charging people and they refunded
Right.
the people they had charged.
Yeah. Which is good.
I think I also broke my controller playing Dead Cells, Connor, so I can relate.
Yeah, I
Dead
don't know if
Cells, yeah.
Yeah.
that might have fucked up the Joy-Con, but even still, it's like I'm playing a game I bought on your system. That shouldn't be in and
No,
of
that's
itself
true.
an issue.
And again, I know Pro controllers had the same thing.
yeah,
Not
that's
just the
Oh,
Joy-Con
I didn't know
themselves.
that. Oh,
which
wow.
also, for the record, if you guys didn't know, it drives me fucking nuts. But the plural of Joy-Con is Joy-Con.
Yeah.
Nintendo decided
Like
it's not
Lego.
Joy-Cons.
They don't get to
It's
choose that. Don't give them that
Joy-Con.
power.
Also, I think it's all supposed to be lowercase. No, Amiibo. No capital A.
Mm.
Go fuck yourselves. It's so annoying. It's
right,
Joy-Con.
right.
if Nintendo were one person, they would be an insufferable like millionaire actor. And it's like
There's no S
one
on the end
gives
of
a
my
shit.
name, actually.
Well, plural of me is Conor.
Yep. Apparently, there are no Connors, just Connor, and it's
There are
lowercase
Connor.
c.
Well, it's like Transformers. They don't have the copyright for Transformer. A singular is a Transformers robot,
Oh,
not a Transformer.
okay.
It's not a capital T Transformer. It is a Transformers robot.
I do worry about the drift though, because I have a Switch Lite, which I use a fair amount, like, playing kind of in the bed at night. And I do live in fear that it's going to start drifting. It hasn't yet. I've had it like a year, but I'm dreading that day because I know it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I think the thing for me about this story is that these types of things happen, right? Like you have a massive production line and there's a defect that you didn't catch and now it's just out there to the public. I think of Red Ring of Death as like a prime example of this. But what's scary and frustrating for me is like Nintendo's actions to make sure it doesn't affect, like if they're still trying to sell Switch units that have this known problem, I think that's what's like really frustrating and really problematic. And they don't plan to fix it. And if they're in the class action lawsuit and the reason they're not talking about it is because they don't intend to fix it, they just want to keep selling this version of the Switch.
Right.
They're still on the production line. They're not fixing
They
those
want to
units.
sell through that stock.
Yeah, they're going to sell through that
Yeah.
stock. And if they're still making them, that's what I would get like really mad about. And I think it's easy to love Nintendo because we love a lot of their games and like especially, you know, the pinnacle Zeldas and Marios and stuff. Like we all just like buy into that so hardcore because of nostalgia and things like that. But as a company, sometimes they're just really, really frustrating, like the internet stuff. But, you know, particularly this case where it's like we've known about this for a long time. People have known and you can't just ignore it and pretend it goes away. And I don't know if like the way Microsoft handled the Red Ring of Death was perfect. I mean, they fixed my Xbox for free, but that was like after a year actually that it had been a problem, and they'd finally said like, okay, send them in. But
I feel like they handled it better than Nintendo, but you are right.
Yeah.
Nintendo pulls some shit that nobody else would get away with that we let them get away with because they make stuff we really love.
Yeah, and what's the recourse here, right? Like, what are we looking for? What do you guys want out of this situation? Or what's the best possible outcome? Because there's still just tons of Switches out there with drift, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
So you have to kind of re-engineer them, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And so do we just have to wait for the new model, for the new, like, the Switch Pro or whatever that's been rumored before they fix this? And what if that has issues, right? Like,
that iterative update with the better processor and battery that they made, does that still have drift? Was there confirmation of that? I don't remember because I know Lights were getting them.
I think it doesn't. It's kind of irrelevant because it's the controllers
It's the same
themselves.
controllers.
Yeah.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
they made a hardware change on that too.
The guts.
I don't think so.
Manufacturing. I don't know. Maybe they're just weighing the numbers and being like, well, we've sold however many
They're
millions
also so
of units.
expensive. Like those controllers are expensive.
Oh my god!
They're
yeah.
$80, right?
Yeah.
Why? I don't like Joy-Con. When I'm talking about both of them. I can't stand using it as a controller. Like I don't play. I'm probably an outlier. I don't play my Switch in handheld. I just don't do it because I can't stand the. I have actually, when I was playing Mario Maker 2, would sit in bed once or twice with my Switch between my knees, holding my Pro controller so I could play because I just couldn't platform with the Joy-Con. And
Also,
I'm
I'm sorry, haven't we figured out how to fucking make analog control sticks at this point in 2020? I mean, the Switch is
They
not
had this
that
problem
old.
back with the 64.
Yeah, right. With
The joysticks like getting all
controller.
floppy,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
fix it, and now we're back here with the same problem. Everyone else is fine.
you just get that bum controller and you're playing GoldenEye and you're just like, God dang it.
It's
You're just in
from
the
Mario
bathrooms
Party when you
doing-
were doing the
Yeah.
rotate
Yeah,
You
thing.
just have to keep fixing it. So you give it to
I've,
the best guy and he's still killing you. It's the worst.
I've not had any controller break. My controllers for my other platforms break in that the rubber on the sticks wears down so much that like they start flaking off, and that's the point where
Yeah.
I'm like, I should probably get a new one. But I've not had them fall apart. I've not had anything become unresponsive, at least for this generation. My PlayStation 4 controller and my Xbox controllers completely fine. And I think that I did put about 1,000 hours into my Switch before I got drift, so it's not like it was a short amount of time.
Yeah.
1,000 hours is like fairly good. It's just when you compare it to everyone else. I mean, considering anytime that we play PC games that require a controller on for Funhouse, I'm also going to use my same Elite. So I think I put a lot of time on that Xbox controller, and it's still doing just fine.
I did go through a ton of PS2 controllers back in the day.
I think I did too.
Like it
And
had a
N64
sticky,
controllers.
I got like a sticky affirmative button on the PS2, and I would just buy another third party one and play that one for a while, and then I don't know. I just kind of remember saying, well, that's how it goes. But the Joy-Con drift, especially on a Switch Lite where it's attached like that and you can't replace it, it just feels. The Switch has done such a good job, I think, and been such a hit, but this is such an Achilles heel for it.
It is funny to look at Nintendo's history of controller shortcomings because the Joy-Con drift is a very like shady corporate thing that they didn't admit guilt for the longest time until now. But you go back 10 years ago and people were just fucking launching Wiimotes into their TVs.
Yeah.
Which is not a defect. They had the warning on that absolved them, put this thing around your wristband, but it's just like people bowling and just launching these things into flat screens.
People.
It's just right. Or like I remember my pop was playing bowling and just like smashed the thing into a coffee table lip just because he was just coming all the way around. And it's just like, it's so funny like seeing their journey through controllers.
Right.
Not iterative at all. They really changed shit up.
Exactly. Every single time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go on to our last story. This one's about Xbox, and there was a bit of commotion about Fable and Perfect Dark. People are thinking that they might be working on new games in those franchises. Tom Warren of, I believe he's on The Verge, found...
The Verge, yeah.
Yeah, so he found Twitter accounts for both of those games looking like placeholders. They were locked down. And then this prompted a response from Aaron Greenberg of Xbox saying, oh, we just do this. We just do this to lock down our IP. It turns out the Perfect Dark one was made by a fan. The Fable one, though, it feels like there's heat to both of these rumors, though, because Fable has been rumored for a while now that there's a new Fable game in the works, and even Perfect Dark. So... maybe they're not officially confirming things yet, but I would not be surprised if in their presentation about exclusives this month that we might finally be getting another Fable game.
I don't know if you saw when I put it in the script, Brian, because obviously I would have been there after you. But I did add a thing into our script in the daily that I've had 4 separate Microsoft employees.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Fable is being made. And none of them, I guess, knew that the other ones have done it. It's just people who, like, I guess, to me, are like, we know you like Fable. So, like, 2 of them have been, like, very jokey, like a wink. But one of them was like, yeah, you'll hear about Fable soon. So, like, Fable's being made.
So that's, okay, good. So we can confirm,
I know nothing other than that people have sent me messages, and like probably if it was just one person I wouldn't even say anything, right? Like that's not enough of a source, but like the amount of them that have done it is like, well, okay, so I don't know when, I don't know by who, I don't know any details. Obviously we've expected it to be Playground for a while. I have nothing about any of that, only just people who work at Microsoft being like, Alanah, you're going to be excited about Fable. So that's a thing that's happening. I don't know that like the Twitter thing really holds weight otherwise, because I think it makes sense that when those 2 properties are being spoken about so much, that Microsoft would want to own the social handles for them, even if they're not making anything. So I don't know that like that's necessarily confirmation. Perfect Dark's obviously been rumored for a while too. I know absolutely nothing about it. Everyone suspected it for a while, but I know like there was rumor that maybe the Coalition would be working on a multiplayer mode.
And it's so Rare. It was done by Rare. Microsoft owns Rare. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, I don't imagine Rare are working on Perfect Dark.
Because they're working on like Everwild or something like that. A different game right now.
Yeah, that's a really pretty looking thing that we have no idea what it is. And obviously still constantly updating Sea of Thieves. They're so good about Sea of Thieves.
Oh, yeah.
That game is really picked up, PS.
It's great. Yeah. It's real good.
I'm curious what a Fable game looks like without Peter Molyneux. I don't know if he was on all of the third one, or like, do you need that auteur there to make like the Fable magic?
I think all Peter Molyneux was, I mean, not to discredit them, for the record, Fable 1, specifically the Lost Chapter, is in my top 5 favorite games ever. I fucking love that game so much. 2 and 3 much less so, but like I am excited about a new Fable because the first Fable is just, I love it. I play it annually. But Peter Molyneux's shtick, as has been with virtually every other game he's made, is about like, we want to have the infinite player choice. And so he was like very much a part of the like renown system, and you know, if you do something bad, it reflects in the way that you look type of stuff that echoed through the series. I think like the core of Fable that I think is the most important is that it's made by a British studio, honestly. To me, that's the thing that I'm like, tell me British people made this. Because otherwise...
there's an Anglophile element here. Yeah.
Kinda. It's so specifically British in humor that I feel like if writing team would work.
That is true.
But it's so British that I feel like if you changed it and it turns out to be an American studio, I'm going to be like...
I'm sorry, we remade The Office, and the first 4 seasons were pretty good.
Yeah, but also completely different.
Yes, they were. They
Very
were.
different things.
Except that
So, like, I
first
feel like that's
episode
okay.
where it was they tried to do it 1v1 and it was
Much too
fucking
similar.
awful.
Didn't work. Yeah. But obviously Lionhead got shut down after Fable Legends, which I did get to play, which 4v1 didn't work for anyone really. If it didn't work for Evolve, which was super fun the one time anyone played it, I don't know that it was ever going to work for Fable Legends.
It seemed cool. It seemed really cool. I'm sad it didn't do well.
It
but
did seem like the next big thing. Dying Light tried it too, right? With the big
Yeah, and
zombie
Dying Light,
mode.
they have a mode that I think actually kind of works in Dying Light because it's a standalone.
Right.
It's less of like a game. They also had BioWare was working on it. Shadow Realms, I believe it was called.
Yes, that's.
I don't remember if that's the name exactly.
Even if they were good, though, it
4v1
just didn't catch.
just didn't work.
Yeah.
Content doesn't work.
What is it for you? What would you want to see? Because I think this is a more interesting question, and we can talk about Perfect Dark a little bit too, because that Perfect Dark 0 or whatever that
I didn't
last
even play it.
it was bad. It
was
wasn't
bad.
Play it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that name even holds. But for you, Alanah, as someone who loved the first Fable game, what would you want to see in the next Fable? What makes it Fable for you?
So that humor is a really big part of it, but the thing that like is the reason that I love Fable 1 and don't give as much of a fuck about Fable 2 and 3 is the combat. Have you guys played Kingdoms of Amalur?
Yeah.
The combat in Kingdoms of Amalur always felt to me like what a modern Fable would feel like.
Right on.
Whereas 2 and 3, which I know a lot of people like love 2 especially, where Fable is concerned, and there's still a lot of cool stuff. Like I really love all of the real estate system in those games, like the way they iterated on that is really cool. It's goofy the whole way through. The choice stuff, there's a dog, big fan. Can't go wrong with the dog in the later games. But the combat just got really simplified in a way that they made it like more of a kid's game. So what I would want, and I would almost be surprised if another Fable even is what I want from Fable. I'm hoping, but I'd be surprised if it's the Fable that I want it to be in any case. And I feel like I'll know that based on a trailer. Is basically just keep that same combat system for the first one, make it more of an RPG, I guess. Like, still let me have jobs. I liked all that stuff too, but it's like the core of it is the silly, goofy world where very serious things are happening in your main quest. But yeah, the combat is the thing that I want to stay the same, and all the customized weapons behind your demon doors and all that stuff was just I got very into the wizard parts of it, basically, with the guild and all that stuff that kind of fell apart. So yeah, I would be surprised if it meets my expectations, but I want it. And Perfect Dark was also one of my favorite games. My sister and I played so much Perfect Dark back in the day, to the extent that we burnt a cartridge. It literally smoked.
Whoa.
Which is the only time I'd had that with an N64 game. It was my sister and I in Cairns, which is a really hot part of Australia, just played Perfect Dark for so long, day in, day out, that we burnt the cartridge.
So did you have the drive, like the extra drive? It's not the DD drive. I think it's called the expansion pack or whatever.
Expansion PAK pack.
PAK.
Yeah, we had all that. And Perfect Dark was really cool because, especially to play like with, a sibling, I guess, is the time that it came out for me. It was really cool because you can play the campaign with one of you as Joanna Dark and one of you as an enemy AI, and you will spawn in as an enemy, play through the single player campaign, co-op split screen. But that meant that like if I was playing on the harder levels, because I would have been 7 and my sister's 4 years older than me, so she would have been 11, and playing on the really, really difficult ones that felt like I was way unequipped to do, she would then play as the enemy AI and actually help me. Like she was a spy. It was just very cool. I could go on a rant about how I love those games. But Perfect Dark is a similar thing where they could zero it, and then, I think fans probably don't care. Or they could make what we remember of Perfect Dark, which is very much fun spy garbage that I still think was kind of better than GoldenEye, that just like maybe didn't take off as much. That would let us relive that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like I don't know, because both of those games could be so much of anything because, the last entries in the series weren't super strong. So they probably don't have to adhere to that. And probably Fable doesn't get enough credit for like the morality system craze in games, because that was really like their shtick. Like you're talking about the upgrading the weapons, and they kind of change based on how you're playing, right? Like in terms of like evil or good. And I don't know, morality systems kind of seem a little bit rote now. Like I don't know if anybody's quite nailed it. I mean, the BioShock probably got or Mass Effect probably got the closest, right?
Yeah, I was going to say BioWare has for sure done it a couple of times. But, it was cool playing Fable and being a bad guy and growing horns because you were a bad guy.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I'm totally unfamiliar with it, so that take on the morality system is cool. Because I know the Dishonored morality system probably the best, which is extremely black and white.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're a bad person, you get a bad ending.
It's
basically how it went.
Yeah, Fable didn't work that way.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about Fable was like you physically changed, and you did this in Mass Effect 2 based on your decisions. You physically, like, your appearances change, your weapons change, and stuff like that too.
Oh yeah, didn't Knights of the Old Republic do that? Maybe.
I think so. I think it may have. I'm sure like other games have. I don't.
Yeah,
doubt that.
I don't know. I don't know anything about Perfect Dark or Fable, so I'm just like grappling at any
Connor,
point
they're
I
so
can grab
good.
onto. Which would I enjoy a Fable game if I just cold dropped into it without any of the context?
Yeah. One of my friends right now is playing through all of the Fable games. And I guess maybe he had it before, but he just like picked it up and did it because they're so fun and stupid that you absolutely could still play Fable and love it. Perfect Dark's a little bit harder, but I think it might be on Rare Replay, which means I think it is actually. And Perfect Dark's fucking great, man. Like playing those harder difficulties that have more objectives. You are a spy and you have to accomplish several tasks inside of a level, and you can kind of do it in any order really, but getting through it is complicated. They're like puzzle games in part too.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Yeah, still play both of them. They're fucking great.
Okay, God, leave me alone. No, I should. I have a tremendous backlog of shameful titles I've never touched.
Fable Anniversary that just came out.
Mass Effect,
6
Half-Life.
years ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they re-released it, so check that out.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we are almost done on time, but let's answer a few questions from people. This first one comes from Devout Frenzy on Twitter. Mega tech companies, Google, Apple, Amazon, etc., are trying to get into gaming, but with the recent stumbles like Stadia and the Amazon game, I believe they mean Crucible, do you think these companies pull the plug or pour immense amount of money until it works financially? I think the latter. I think they all want to get into gaming. I think there's so much growth there, and these companies are, big piles of cash looking for the next opportunity. So I think they'll keep trying until they get it right.
Until somebody says they can't try anymore.
Yeah.
Usually.
But who's going to say that?
Right,
Not the U.S. government. Not at all.
They're not going to stop. And the reason they're not going to stop is because everything's headed in the direction of streaming. And I mean, Google's business model works so well in that you watch a game on YouTube, you would click a button and you would immediately buy and play that game. Yeah. It's too appealing. And I also think, like I've said this before, and I always get linked to the Inside Gaming videos as like some kind of counterpoint. Stadia works for me. So it functions. I actually am super impressed by that tech, but it is so specific to, I think, where I live, that my ping is so good that I really can literally just go stadia.com, play Destiny. Immediately I'm playing Destiny.
Me too. Mine is good too. Yep. But I have Google Fiber. Yeah.
That's why, right? It's it's good for a very select group of people, which isn't good enough. But like, I feel like I've spoken about that twice. Been like, look, my Stadia experience is very promising in terms of where this tech is headed, and people always link me Inside Gaming videos that are negative about Stadia as though it means that I'm like going against the brand and there's no cohesion.
As though we don't have our own opinions separate.
Report on worldwide news. Like, I'm not going to tell you that Stadia is good for everyone because it's not, and that's not okay. And also their pricing model is absolutely absurd. But
I want it to work for me. Like I would like that. Like I took down the Inside Gaming copy, back to Pennsylvania with me, but I didn't want to buy Destiny again, and I'm not going to grind when I'm on vacation. So it was like, I can't find the use
casual. I found the casual.
That's me. Yeah, let me go just drop in and run that night, fucking whatever again. Strike.
The Destiny. Whatever it is.
It's something from
the
Goldmar.
irons, banners, and crucibles and all of
Lance
that
Reddick.
stuff. Yeah, the moon's
of light.
haunted.
I don't know. It's very cool. I mean, like I did the Google Stream beta before it was Stadia, and like I played Assassin's Creed once on my laptop, and I was like, that's cool. That's really neat.
I sort of don't think it's realistic that they can get it to work for everyone right now. And that is their fuck up when it comes to marketing, and that they, I think, maybe need to be more honest about this being for a particular group of people right now. Right. Again, their pricing model is a problem, but I do think it works when you have the exact right circumstances, which I'm sure is the same for Apple and Amazon. And there's just so much potential money in getting games streaming and how quickly you could get people to purchase something that I don't think they will give up.
It's one of them's going to crack it. It's only a matter of time.
Well, I think it's a good thing you brought up Apple because, and we've probably talked about this before on this podcast and probably even the Daily, but there's just no reason to own Stadia if you're already kind of bought into gaming. And I think the way that we've learned that like marketing and gaming works is if you can satisfy a core, like a large core audience, it will disseminate to the rest of the kind of gaming public, I guess, because they use like certain focal points to, in word of mouth, like is very effective in games that we've learned. So if you can win those people over, then they'll tell all their friends and they'll tell their friends, etc. But I think the thing that Apple did is they actually have games that are exclusive to Apple Arcade, right? Like there's no reason for me to jump into Stadia if I already own all of the games, like most of the games that I would have wanted to play when they launched. So I think like their big mistake was just not having anything else to offer for like people who care the most, which is wild. People who will share the most on social media, people who have the largest followings on social media and are like represent the game space, right? Like it's a really cool like feature set, and I think that's exciting in itself, but that's probably
Google
not enough.
Pushes for an affiliate program where YouTube creators get a cut of the amount of click-throughs for a Stadia purchase, which I could see them also doing. But I also with Stadia like have always my biggest concern about that, and it's not just Stadia, but I guess they're the ones that Amazon too that concern me because all of their revenue is from advertising, is that eventually those streaming services will have pop-up ads and cutscenes or like ads on a and I don't want games to head in that direction. I really fucking don't, but I can't see Google being like, well, we make so much money off ads, what if we did that?
The fact that I have to...
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I have played Stadia fairly recently. I tried Elder Scrolls Online on it. It wasn't bad. I had a similar experience to Alanah. Like my ping was good. But yeah, I have Google Fiber. The coolest thing about the service to me is the technology and knowing like you're doing this, streaming the game over the internet. I tried Destiny 2. I had a little bit... I'm not quite sold on it for Destiny and a FPS like that, but I felt like overall it feels almost there, and it definitely feels like that it is going to be the future, whether you like it or not. I didn't see it though as my like daily gaming experience. I didn't see it at this point, at least, like replacing a PC or replacing the console, but boy, it and I know we've written a lot of articles about Stadia and done a lot of videos, and I know y'all send them to me, but the technology is cool, and it
that tech excites me because it's cool innovation. And I know that it's popular to hate on Stadia, and I got a lot of shit for telling people genuinely, actually, I had a good experience. Like, people are mad at me for telling the truth about having a positive experience with Stadia.
Right. How dare you?
When obviously it doesn't apply to everyone, but like, as a person who really likes seeing the video game industry evolve, similar to what you're saying there, Brian, I'm like, this tech is fucking dope.
Yeah.
If they can figure it out, because it's so weird to be excited to go back to an era where I don't have to install a game. But
or
I'm like,
buy a PC eventually. Like, I can see it replacing a PC, kind of. I mean,
I think people are still like clinging on to their physical copies of games. It's the same kind of jump, right? To go from physical games to digital, and then to do like this full like streaming service.
Well, we did it with
monetarily has to
music.
work.
I
we
mean,
did it with music. Yeah,
We did it
and
with
it was
music,
fine.
and it just the trade-off of like, do I want to pay the monthly fee and then also buy the games on top of it? No.
Right.
And so,
Right.
I mean, Game Pass and xCloud seems like the winning combo. So I mean,
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm excited
Yeah.
for that. If
Yeah.
if they crack that, then that would be a great way to experience games I don't have yet in places like where I'm just around.
That's
But
such a
also-
winning
Yeah.
combination.
But
Yeah,
also, I don't
jeez.
leave my house anymore, so I have no need. To
Right.
Also
Yeah,
true.
Stadia does not have a good value proposition, and I think that's one of its problems. But the store is kind of bare, and you look at it and you're like, I played that, I've got that, I've got. If you're the kind of person who's going to try Stadia, you're probably like a fairly serious gamer to begin with. So I think that's the problem they're rubbing up against. But I do think, yeah, it's going to be a future or a huge part of the future. All right, we are up on time, so let's call it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
And then just watching your
$30 million, and I think Shroud got 10 million. So those two are
Jesus.
the big winners. Everyone else is not.
yeah, they made
cool.
off.
How much? How much are they giving their employees that they're laying
Right,
off?
Right.
Fuck you.
Well, I
Employees
think-
laying off other people.